All right, folks, get ready to fire up those brain cells because today we're diving into a question that's been a real head scratcher for centuries. Do we actually have free will? Or are we just, going through the motions of life?
It's one of those questions that just won't quit. And in information philosophy, Bob Doyle even calls it a bit of a scandal that we haven't figured it out yet.
A scandal. Yeah, you'd think we'd have a better handle on this whole free will thing by now. But Doyle's book promises a fresh perspective on this age-old debate, using information theory. Less abstract philosophy, more concrete insights. So are you ready to dive in?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, then. Let's start with the basics. When we say free will, what are we even talking about? I mean, we make choices every day, right?
We do. But the core of free will is whether those choices are genuinely ours to make. Could we have chosen differently even under the exact same circumstances? Or are our actions already predetermined in some way?
Okay, so it's that feeling we all have, like, I could have ordered the salad instead of the fries. But the big question is that feeling legit? Or is it just our brains messing with us?
Exactly. And that's where all those theories about determinism come in. The idea that maybe our choices aren't as free as we think. Doyle lays out several different types of determinism in information philosophy.
Okay, let's unpack some of those. What are we up against in this battle for free will?
Well, first up, we've got causal determinism. You could call it the domino effect theory. Imagine the Big Bang as the very first domino. It sets off this chain reaction, cause and effect, that ultimately leads to every single one of our actions.
So no pressure or anything, but every decision I make is basically a ripple effect from the dawn of time. No wonder I can't get anything done.
To illustrate this point, Doyle introduces this wild concept called Laplace's demon. Imagine a superintelligence that knows the exact position and momentum of every atom in the universe at one single moment. This demon could theoretically predict the entire future down to the tiniest detail just based on those initial conditions.
Okay, that's both impressive and slightly terrifying. It kind of makes you feel like we're all just puppets on a string, doesn't it?
That's the determinist argument, yes. But wait, there's more. Doyle then gets into biological determinism, which argues that it's our genes, our DNA, that are really calling the shots.
Right. It's that whole nature versus nurture debate. Are we born a certain way or do we become so way because of our experiences?
Exactly. And even if we lean more towards nurture, Doyle argues that even our environment, our upbringing, our culture, can be seen as a predetermined influence on our choices.
So no matter how you slice it, we're back to being puppets, just with different puppeteers.
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
But Doyle doesn't stop there. He also explores theological determinism.
Oh, boy. Now we're bringing a higher power into the mix. Does that mean if there is a God, free will is a bust?
Well, the idea with theological determinism is that if God is all-knowing and already knows the future, including all of our choices, then in a sense our paths are already laid out for us.
Hold on a minute. If God already knows I'm going to eat this entire bag of chips before I even open it, how can I be held accountable for my choices?
That's a great question. And it's one that theologians have been wrestling with for centuries. It's called the problem of evil. If God is both all-powerful and all-knowing, why does evil exist? And if our actions are predetermined, how can we be held responsible for them?
Okay. My head is already starting to spin a little bit here, but before I spiral into a full-blown existential crisis, there's one more type of determinism we need to cover, right? You mentioned something called logical determinism.
Yes, logical determinism. This one's a bit of a brain tender. But it essentially argues that if we can say with certainty that something will happen in the future, like you'll have a cup of coffee tomorrow morning, doesn't that mean in a way it's already determined? Like the future is already set, at least in a logical sense.
Wait. So you're saying that simply knowing something will happen in the future, even something as small as me having coffee tomorrow, somehow makes it inevitable, like I don't actually have a choice in the matter?
To illustrate this point, Doyle uses a classic thought experiment from Aristotle called the sea battle. But maybe we can save the nitty-gritty details of that for later.
Agreed. Let's tackle that one when we're a little further down the rabbit hole.
Sounds like a plan.
So far it seems like the determinists are really stacking the deck against free will. But Doyle wouldn't drop all of this on us without some glimmer of hope, right? There's got to be a counter-argument somewhere in this book.
Oh, absolutely. Doyle lays out a very compelling case for genuine freedom. He argues that these deterministic views we've been discussing, they all rely on this vision of the universe as perfectly predictable, like a giant clockwork mechanism. However, modern science, particularly quantum physics, has started to poke some holes in that tidy picture.
Now this is where things start to get really interesting.
It does get interesting, because at the subatomic level, things get a lot weirder than a predictable clockwork universe. Quantum physics introduces the idea of randomness, inherent randomness, at the most fundamental levels of reality.
So we're talking about things like the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. You can't know both the position and the momentum of a particle with perfect accuracy. It's all a bit fuzzy.
Exactly. It's not just about fuzzy measurements, though. Quantum physics suggests that events at this level aren't predetermined. It's not that we can't measure things precisely, it's that there's a kind of randomness baked into the fabric of the universe.
Whoa. Okay, hold on. So you're saying the universe is basically a cosmic coin toss. Does that mean everything is just random chance and we might as well